But first, a few holy mackerel stories in today's news. Somali pirates have taken a Chinese cargo vessel and its 25 crew members hostage. This is the first successful attack since China sent 3 naval warships to the area last year. A Reuters reporter was actually able to call one of the pirates on board the ship. He said the ship's carrying fuel and that they would be bringing it back to Somalia. Now, a lot of ships have been hijacked off the Somali coast, but as far as we can tell, this hijacking is record-breaking, and therefore it's making tonight's news because of where the ship was when it was attacked. The ship was attacked and boarded about 350 miles north of the Seychelles. 700 miles from Somalia. That is the farthest afield any pirates have struck in modern pirating history. 700 miles, which I think means I sort of need to take it back. There was no hijacking off the coast of Somalia. That would be like saying in late January, Barack and Michelle Obama picked up the kids and moved to the outskirts of Chicago. If you defined the White House in Washington, D.C. as being on Chicago's outskirts, 700 miles. And a new U.S. Navy amphibious assault vessel is about to be commissioned. It's the size of 2 football fields. It's called the USS New York, and it's currently on its way to New York from New Orleans, where it was built. For parts of the warship, however, you could more accurately describe the trip to New York as a return home. 7.5 tons of the steel used to build the ship's forward hull were taken from the wreckage of the World Trade Center buildings that were knocked down on 9/11. And the unusual relationship between the USS New York and the metal in it doesn't stop there. In the Navy, there's a tradition of what's called ship's silver. It's like the china your grandmother would only bring out for special occasions, except instead of your grandmother, it's the captain of a billion-dollar amphibious assault vehicle carrying U.S. Marines. Ship's silver is often handed down from ship to ship in the Navy. So, for example, on the USS New York, this sugar bowl and this punch bowl will be passed down from a previous ship of the same name. And here's the part of the story we had to check to make sure it wasn't sourced to the Onion. Beyond the fancy silver being inherited from previous ships, the way they're trying to outfit the USS New York with the rest of its silver is that they've registered the USS New York at Tiffany's, as if it's a bride. Yeah, if you're motivated, you could buy this billion-dollar amphibious assault vehicle a $4,200 silver teapot. Or you could buy them a $2,000 tray. If the recession has taken its toll and you're having a rough year, we might also suggest this fork, which is only $250. You know, that $600 Pentagon hammer is starting to look like a real steal. In the big picture in American politics, Republicans are now a pretty small minority. In New Washington Post ABC News polling out today, only 20% of the country identifies as Republican. In Washington, that is translated into the Republican Party losing control of the House and the Senate in 2006, then just getting even further clobbered in the next election, plus losing the White House, too. In the Senate in particular, it's been a rough few years for Republicans. They were in the majority in the Senate through the 2004 election. In the next election, Democrats took the Senate majority by just 1 seat, but then last year, the Senate just blew up for the Republicans. 2008 was a Senate disaster for them. They lost 8 seats in 1 election. They gave Democrats not just a majority, but a supermajority. Now, to be fair, a lot of political winds were blowing against Republicans in the 2008 Senate races when they got clobbered. But it cannot have helped that the man in charge of the Republican Party's Senate Campaign Committee, the man in charge of electing and re-electing Republican senators in 2008 was Nevada's John Ensign. While Senator Ensign was supposed to be in charge of, say, Republicans not losing 8 seats in the Senate, we now know he was also doing elaborate damage control about his extramarital affair, which had at that time become known. That damage control included putting his mistress's teenage son on the Republican Senate Campaign Committee's payroll. It involved having his parents pay off his mistress's family to the tune of almost $100,000. And we now know that it involved Senator Ensign having the political director of the Republican Senate Campaign Committee, in the heat of the lead up to the 2008 elections, stop working on electing Republican senators that year, and instead start working on finding a job for the husband of John Ensign's mistress. That apparently was pressing National Republican Senate Campaign Committee business under John Ensign's leadership. The effort to elect Republican senators in 2008 failed miserably under that leadership. They lost 8 seats. Now we know why that effort might have been a little distracted. And as both parties gear up now for the next elections in 2010, we have just learned from CQPolitics.com that the Ensign family has found a new way to add further insult and injury to what they've already done to the Republican Party's chances in Washington, specifically in the Senate. According to new fundraising reports, John Enson's parents, famous for paying off his mistress, have also just maxed out their personal donations to Harry Reid, the leader of the Senate Democrats. Ouch.